Hey everyone, Emma here. How are you today? So I thought today I'd move away from policies and local authorities and care acts and the rights and wrongs of the world and talk about something a bit more personal, about my personal journey of being a mum. So I was a young mum. I was a teenage mum. I had my first child at 17 and she was born with a physical disability. She was born with no fingers on her left hand. And then I was pregnant again and had my second child at the age of 19. And she was born with Down syndrome. And then I had a third child at 23 and he wasn't born with a disability. So, so just a little bit about that. So how I felt being so young and being a mum to these two girls. And I have to say, I think ignorance is bliss in a lot of ways. And I think being so young, you are quite ignorant to a lot of things. And I think that you don't really understand a lot of things in the world and how things will be. So I think I just went gun-ho for it and just was like, this is no problem, this is not going to be a problem, and I'm just gonna carry on and love her and do the thing and bring her up and take it all in my stride, and that's what I did. And so with my first daughter, I didn't know that she was going to be born with a physical disability until after she was born. And then the nurses told me. It was a little bit like I'd had quite a difficult birth, and when I came round, they were like, oh, they sat down and they were like, we need to discuss your baby, and my heart was just going, because I was just like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna say? And I was just thinking of the worst thing, and everything was going through my mind. And so when they eventually got round to telling me that she had been born without her fingers on her left hand, and it had been caused by the amniotic fluid going fibrous into bands and wrapping, kind of stunting the growth on one of her hands, I was kind of relieved, because I just thought, oh, for goodness sake, is that all? Because I don't know, I just imagined the worst. I don't know what the worst would be, but I just imagined something much more it's hard to say serious, isn't it? Because obviously that's serious, and I don't want to kind of say that that's not serious, because but yeah, you kind of get the gist of what I mean. And then when I got pregnant again, and I think I had all the test, and I had the AFP test. I don't know what you do. You have it as, is it 16 weeks? I mean, it's quite a long time, 30 odd years ago now. So you have the AFP test, and I remember seeing the midwife coming down the path on a Sunday morning, and I'd recently had the test, and I was just a bit like, why is she coming to me at my door on a Sunday morning? So I was a little bit like, so she'd spoken to me and said that the AFP test had a raised percentage higher than normal, so they'd like me to go in for a scanning, a dating scan. That's what they called it, a dating scan, and to check the dates and to make sure that they've got the dates right and that the data and the statistics are. So I went and did that, and and still the results came back that I was at a high risk of having a child with Down syndrome. And did I want a amniocentesis to find out? So I decided that I did want that, and because I wanted to know, and even though I wasn't going to, I knew I wasn't going to terminate the pregnancy. I wanted to know, and I wanted to be prepared, and so I went in and I had the aminos and TCs, and they couldn't, without being too graphic, they, for whatever reason, I don't really understand why, they couldn't pull out the fluid, so it wouldn't draw up, and so they said they had to take the needle out, and then they said to me, you know, what did I want to do, that they could like reinsert the needle, but like with every time that they do that, there's a risk of miscarriage. So I said yes, like do it again, and so they did it again, and the same thing happened. So I don't know what, I just wasn't meant to know, and so I said, okay, I'm not to know. That's absolutely fine. And so I was just left with this kind of risk factor of like having this statistic of like I'm at high risk of, you know, having a Down syndrome baby, but I didn't know for certain whether I would or I wouldn't. And then when I went into labour, I was at the local hospital. I went into the local hospital, and that was in Weston-super-Mare. And I don't know. I remember saying to the midwife, "Oh, you know, will you know whether, you know, the baby's got Down syndrome or not straight away?" And she was like, "What are you talking about?" And so I don't think she'd fully read the notes. I mean, I presume it was all in there. I don't know whether she'd fully read the notes, but I said, oh, well, I'd had, you know, this raised AFP, and I'd also had the amino, and it wasn't conclusive. And she was a bit like, oh, okay. So, so it was a bit, so I don't think they were particularly prepared. And I don't know, it wasn't a hospital where, you know, there was emergency care, and if you needed anything more than, you know, regular sort of run-of-the-mill stuff, then you had to go to Bristol hospital. So anyway, I don't know. I gave birth, and I saw her when she came out. I saw her, and you know, I kind of knew she looked like she had Down syndrome, and I kind of knew. And then I had other health complications, bit of another story for another time maybe, but I had other complications and ended up going to theatre and then not seeing and being with with my new baby, and actually then getting an infection and being unconscious for 2 days, and my baby and her father went to Bristol Hospital, and I stayed in Western Hospital for a couple of days until I was well enough to then go up to Bristol and be reunited. And so that is the beginning story of my journey into being a mum of children with disabilities, all those years ago. And so there's lots to share, there's lots of experiences, there's lots of tales to tell, and I'm sure I'll do that over the weeks and years that I'm here. Okay. Oh, and if you have a story that you'd like to share about your journey into being a mum to people with to beings, beautiful spiritual beings that come to us with these disabilities or additional needs or gifts, or however you want to term it, then I'd love to hear your stories. So drop them in the comments. Okay, bye for now.